Hey, what is up everybody, Reubin here. My name's Reubin and welcome to Car Mechanic Simulator 2015. This game is awesome. It's a game I've got quite a lot of experience in, quite honestly, just because I play it on my own. It was always just going to be a game where basically it was for myself, just something I can sit back sometimes, just relax and play this. But because I've been having so much fun with it and because of how much you can actually do in this game, I decided I'm going to make a full-length series on this game and what this game can do. So what we're going to do, we're going to jump straight in. Now, we're starting off a new career. Obviously, I've switched over to a new profile so we can show you guys from the beginning of how much work goes into, obviously, building up your garage, building up your experience, building up the tools that you are using, and the amount of work that comes in. So, as the game possibly has given away, you are a mechanic. You work inside a shop and you need to fix cars that basically come through your shop. You can choose or decline whatever jobs you want, but obviously the more jobs you do, the more difficult the job, the more experience and cash that'll come from it. So, welcome to Car Mechanic Simulator 2015. In this short tutorial, we will show you the basic mechanics of the game and show you how to sort out your first few jobs. So, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Okay, so do you hear the phone ringing? It could be a new customer. Go to the desk and pick up the phone to check what needs to be done. Okay, so this is our garage. Now, our garage is quite pretty at the moment, but later on when we start getting experience, we can actually customize this garage to our liking. Now, as you can see, there are places over here that are currently blocked off. Now, this is the paint shop. This is the path testing facility where you test your brakes and your suspension. Out here, we've got the parking lot. And through these doors we can exit out into the world and basically go to either the auction center or the drag strip, the old factory test track, or go to car stripping where we basically pull cars apart for some extra cash. Okay, thing is, in order for you to get access to all of these things, you need quite a lot of XP, obviously, to be eligible to buy it. And then once you've reach the required XP, you still need the cash to buy it. And if you have a look at the top right hand corner, we've got 0 XP and only $2,000. So we've got our work cut out ahead of us. Now the first thing I do, well, normally the first thing I do is we've got this oil drainer over here. I end up moving this oil drainer over here because it's standing out there in the corner, doesn't help us anything, so I just move it over there so that it's right by the vehicles where we actually end up working. So we're going to jump straight in and take our first contract and see exactly what the customer wants from us. So in this menu you can view all of your waiting orders. Some of them are locked because you need more XP to take them. Here you can take, or if you don't like them, pass jobs without consequences. New jobs will appear here every time new customers call you. Okay, so we've got 2 available jobs. Now there's normally a maximum of 4 that wait inside this work list. So the only 2 that we can actually do is, one is general running, gear control and repair, and the second one is put in new timing parts. And then another one just came in, but unfortunately there's those 2 of them we can't do. So I think we'll start off with something relatively easy and we'll put in the new timing parts. So we'll take this job. Now this is going to be the Reno Piccolo. It'll pop up here on our left pretty soon. And that's the car over there. So as you can see, overall the car is in good condition. Now I'll show you guys once the car is on the left how to determine if the car is in good condition mechanical wise. So let's have a look at quickly. So our work order states that, okay, so here you can see details of your order. If you don't like the job or cannot perform all the tasks, you can always end the job. You will get a refund for the tasks you've already done, but you'll miss the bonus for finishing the job. In future, the orders will be more demanding and you will have to locate broken parts yourself instead of having them written on a list. Please note the minimum part condition bar on the right. It shows you the minimum part condition required to fulfill each order. So what they're referring to here is here on the right hand side, it says repair with parts exceeding a minimum condition of 66%. So all parts that we are replacing, so all of these parts on top over here, the belt tensioner, the timing belt and the water pump, all of those have to be at least 66% or more in order for this job to be considered as a success. So one thing that we have to do, hold on, I don't even need to move this car anyway. The belt tensioner, the timing belt and the water pump, I can access all of them through the engine bay and I don't actually have to move it out over there. So let's access the engine over here. So in this mode, you can unmount parts from the car. Now this is in parts disassembly mode. Each part can only be accessed from a particular section of the car. So if you're looking in the wrong place, you won't be able to unmount the part. always check if the part is accessible by moving the cursor over it. If a part is blocked by another part, it will glow red when you try and unmount it. So it works in a layer system. In order to, for example, remove the engine block itself, you can't just click on it and remove it. You have to first remove everything around the engine block. The manifolds, the covers, the headers, the pistons, the crankshaft, the fuel injectors, the whole entire timing section, any kind of alternator starter that is possibly attached to the block, all of that has to get removed. So I think it's pretty straightforward. You should have been able to see it already. We've got these parts over here. Now, as you can see, there's a certain level of rust on all of the parts. Now, if the parts are still got a lot of grey and still got a lot of color to them, the parts don't need to be replaced. It's a nice way of visually seeing what parts need to be replaced, because like the game said, later on they aren't going to hold your hand and tell you what the problem is. So as we can see over here, this is the belt tensioner and the water pump. Both of these are a bright brown and they are beyond fucked, so they need to be replaced. So let's remove the belt tensioner. Now the belt tensioner is off. That allows us to remove both belts, and then that allows us to remove the water pump itself. Okay, so now those two parts are off. So we've got the belt tensioner and we've got the water pump. The next one we need is the timing belt. Now the timing belt is actually located under the main timing cover itself. So we've got to remove the idle roller, got to remove the crankshaft pulley, and that allows us then to remove the timing belt cover. And in here you'll see the timing belt with the two camshaft pulleys. There we go, there's the two camshaft gears, and there is the timing belt itself that needs to come off. So that means we now have everything we need. Now it's simply a case of going over to the computer and buying the new parts that we need. So we need, let's quickly go in. Let's go to the car parts shop. Now in here, this is basically where you buy everything that you need. You've got your car parts shop, you've got the body parts shop, you've got the wheel shop. You can take out a bank loan. For one specific car, it's called Mulach, or something like that. If that car comes through your shop, you specifically have to come into this section for all of its parts. Then you've got tuner parts where you can customize and obviously personalize a couple of vehicles. Obviously they are specific to certain vehicles, so you can't just put these lights or these bumpers on just any car. And then you've got your performance shop. Now the performance shop is where you basically replace your carburetors, your catalytic converters, your engine heads, your engine blocks, your manifolds, both for your exhaust and for your engine itself. You can put the turbo, all of that comes, basically all of your performance parts gets fetched over here. Now performance we aren't going to be doing in the beginning because quite simply these parts are expensive. So we're going to go back to the car part shop, and one of the first things we need is a standard timing belt. Now obviously you get a couple of different timing belts here. One is for the 1400, one's for a V8. That's the timing belt cover, but that is the timing belt we need there for $120. Okay, then we needed the tensioner. Okay, so we need a belt tensioner and we need a standard belt tensioner. And then we needed a water pump. So, standard water pump. Now, I do believe it's the water pump for the 14. I just want to confirm for 1400. Yes, it's a pump, water pump for 1400, not a 1600. So, we've got all three parts we need. Now, if we go into our inventory, we'll be able to see. Obviously, we've got a whole bunch of extra parts in here because it's all the stuff that I've taken off of the car. But as you can see, the water pump over here is on 6%, the timing belt was on 23%, and the belt tensioner was on 13%. So those parts really needed to be replaced. But now it's simply a case of going back into the engine and replacing those parts. So pressing number 2, it will bring this up. Parts assembly. In this mode, you can mount parts in their places. A transparent part, a silhouette, will appear when the part can be mounted. So, as you can see in the background, it's telling me that that's where the timing belt needs to go. It's nice when it does this because later on when you start doing your own project and you go to the auction house and you buy a beat down piece of shit, and you come back here, you can literally strip the entire car of all its components, sell everything that you don't have, that you don't need or don't want, make sure your inventory is empty. That way when you come back to the car, you don't have to try and guess what was in the car. It allows you to build the engine, build the components, build the suspension and the braking system, build everything from scratch, which is obviously awesome because it makes you have the option to build some nice project cars. So first thing we've got to do is put on a new timing belt, and then we can replace the timing belt cover. Once again, bolt these back into place. Now at the moment this bolting takes forever. especially when you are removing things such as the manifold covers or the engine block or the headers. Those things take, well, those things have got a shitload of bolts, so it takes forever. But once we reach our first 1000 XP, we get one of the little upgrades that allows us to fasten and unfasten bolts 3 times as fast. And that makes the overall job just a little bit easier. Okay, so we can put the serpentine belt back on and the other belt back on as well. And then just replace the belt tensioner. Okay, so I think that is all that needed to be done. If we open up the work order again, you'll see the belt tensioner, the timing belt, and the water pump have been replaced. I have met the conditions. I've spent $215 on the job. I got $107 bonus for completing all the tasks, and $107 for obviously completing the job in total, making a total of $429 that I get returned for this job. So just like that, we got 116 XP and we got some extra cash. So look on to the next job. So engine power has failed. Now I'm going to take 2 jobs on this one. One would be the general running gear problems, which is probably to do with the gearbox itself. So we'll bring up this one just so that we can have a look at what the problems on the car are first. Okay, so on this one, it's the front drive axle. See the front spring, the rear shock absorber, the rear suspension arm, and the wheel hub bearing. Okay, so this car needs to go over. Now, always keep your workplace clean and organized. Repairs require access to wheels and suspension will only be possible on the lifters. Others can be done elsewhere. To take a new job, you need to clear space in the middle of your workshop so the client can leave their car there for you. So, as they mentioned over there, that car needs to go on to the lifter because I need to get underneath in order to reach the brake pads, the, well, basically everything that needs to be done on that car is under the car. There's nothing in the engine itself. Okay, now one of the other jobs we've got was a tapping sound coming from the engine bay. So it's at least telling you, because with the list provided, it at least tells you what the problems are. Like the game mentioned early on, later on, it's literally just going to say tapping sound from the engine bay. You need to strip the entire engine and find the part that is the problem. And engine power has failed. So let's take one of those. So we've got one job under the car, one job inside the engine of the car. Okay, so now that we have got this car here in front of us, let's have a look at this one's work order. This one is quite simply just the ignition coil. That is possibly one of the easiest jobs I've ever seen. Because the ignition coil is one of these 4 things on the top here. And if we have a look at it, now one of the things you can do early on in the game is switch over to examination mode. It'll give you a bright, lovely picture of everything around you. And it'll tell you what parts are in a very bad condition. For example, the bright ignition coil is sticking out like a sore thumb. So we switch over to disassembly mode. And we just remove that one ignition coil. That simple, that easy. So all I need now is a standard ignition coil. There we go. $60. And then it's simply a case of going back into the engine and replacing it with a new part. Close the bonnet. Work order is done. Got $120 for that job. Done. So that one was nice and easy, nice and simple. Now, these are the parts, obviously, that I keep from the previous jobs that I did. These are the fucked up parts. Now, later on, you can come to this workbench and repair you repair parts and that. But the problem is, I haven't unlocked it yet in the toolbox because you need a certain amount of XP. For every 1000 XP you get to unlock, you get a skill point, and that skill points are used to unlock different tools, general tools, repair tools, and examine tools. So I can't actually repair any of these, so I'm just going to go ahead and sell them. Doesn't give you a shitload of cash, but it gives you something. So front drive axle, front spring, rear shock absorber, rear suspension arm, and wheel hub bearing. All of these are under the car. So car goes up. Lovely. Okay, so one of the things we can do is press H, and it gives us like a skeletal view of the car to show its integral workings on the inside. Now, once again, if you guys remember what I said about the bright orange rust, you can see that there's the shock absorber and there's the suspension arm. I do believe it's the suspension arm. Yes, that is fucked and needs replacing. And in the front of the car, there we've got the axle part, the axle point, and in there we've got the bearing itself that is damaged. So it looks like I'm going to have to remove the wheels from all 4 tires. Well, remove all 4 tires from the car. Okay, so the wheels come off and let's have a look. As you can see, it's that wheel hub bearing inside there that needs to be replaced. In order for us to get to it, well, we need to obviously remove the front drive axle, remove the brake caliper, then the brake pad. There we go. Now we need to do the ventilated disc brake. And then we can get to the wheel hub bearing. There we go. So that's everything I needed on that side of the car, if I am not mistaken. Let's just double check. Nope, I've got that suspension spring at the top there that needs to be replaced. Now, in order for us to remove that, we have to remove the cap. Now, you'd think you can simply just pull it off the top. But remember, this is underneath the car. The wheel arches and that, this is all inside the car. That is inside the body of the car. There's no space to just lift it up and over. You actually need to drop it down in order to get that coil out. So we need to remove the rear sway bar. Oh, not sway bar. The rear end link bar. Then we need to remove the shock absorber itself. And then we can remove the spring. Okay, so the spring is out. So that's everything we needed on that side of the car. Now on this side, we simply need to remove the suspension arm, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, now once that is off, we can simply just remove the front drive axle. And then the front drive axle is off, and oh, the suspension bar was the bar at the back. Now while we are here, we'll just double check. We'll switch over to 3 and see if there's anything in the front of the car that we need to remove that is integral, and it doesn't look like it. Okay, so now it's simply a case of we move to the back of the car, remove this wheel. Okay, so I like to work in a system of, for example, if we open up the work order, we've got the task description on the left and the faulty parts found in the center, and then the car's details on the right. Now, the task description, as you can see, there's only one section or category, which is the general running gear and control and repair. Now, I normally like to do, if it's a small job like this, I remove all the broken parts, go to the computer. Later on, you get a tablet, so you don't have to go to the computer every single time. You can do it right here at the car. But in this situation, remove all the broken parts, find them first, go to the computer, replace all of them, and come back and fix all of it at once. But later on, it becomes a little bit more difficult because you'll have about 5 or 6 categories on the side. And in each category, there's about possibly 5 to 15 things that are wrong with the vehicle. Sometimes you're sitting with the shell of a vehicle because you've had to remove so much in order to actually do the entire job. So I like to do it category by category and section by section. And rather not jump around too much and then end up stripping out my entire car because I've forgotten one simple piece. So once again, now we need to remove the rear suspension arm. So we have to remove the rubber bushing on the inside. And then simply remove the suspension arm. Okay, now I don't think there's anything else on this side that is a problem. I could be wrong. I just want to double check inside here. Nope, doesn't look like it. And now we can switch over to that other shock absorber. Now this shock absorber does not need the tire off in order to remove. And I do believe that is everything. I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 broken parts, and I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts that need to be replaced. So let's quickly pop over to the computer and buy the parts that I need. So the first thing I need is the rear suspension arm and the front spring. So, rear suspension arm. Now, which one is it? If I'm not mistaken, it's the rear suspension. Is it just a standard rear suspension arm, or is it... Yep, just a standard rear suspension arm, so it's that one. Now, I need a spring. And I need the front spring, because the rear springs are fine. I now have got both of those parts. I now need the hub bearing and the drive axle C. So bearing, wheel hub bearing, axle. Oh, I can't spell. Oh my gosh, how do you spell axle? A-X-L-E. Oh my gosh, I just hit like a complete blind moment there. axle. So we need the front drive axle C, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, so we need that one. And the last thing we need, because here's our 4 new parts, is the rear shock absorber A. So, shock absorber A, rear shock, there we go, $80. Okay, so we've got all the parts we need now to fix up this car. So we can jump in underneath, and we can go back into assembly mode, and replace this rear suspension arm. As you can see, it's bright, shiny, and new. Just move so I can get that damn bolt. And then we replace the rubber bushing that was on the inside. And then we can put the wheel back on this side. Okay, so that's that side done. Now we can move back over to this side. Now this is where we quite simply just removed the shock itself. So we can put the new shock on. As you can see, once again, bright, shiny, and new. And that one was relatively simple. So that's that suspension replaced. Now the rest of the parts come to the front of the vehicle. So first things first, we need to replace the spring at the top. Okay, now we need to put in the front shock absorber. And then put on the rear end link. There we go. It's the front end link, sorry. Hold it in place. And now for the shock cover on top. The absorber cap. Okay, so that is that part of it done. Now, in order to get into here, we can now put in the wheel rubber bushing, which is the new one, the one that isn't so fucked. We can put in the front drive axle with the old one, because this one was fine. It was the other side's one that needed to be replaced. Now, it doesn't matter which side you replace it, because remember, as long as the parts that you're replacing it with are at least better than 62%, you are good. So we'll put the brake pads back on, we'll put the brake caliper back on, bolt it back into place, and then put the wheel onto this side as well. And that should be that side done. And then I do believe all that was necessary on the other side was it the axle itself, or was there anything else I was missing? No, I believe it was just the axle. Pop over back to this side and slap in the new axle. Bolt it back into place and replace the wheel. Okay, so now that that is done, let's have a look at our work order. Everything was done correctly. We met all the objectives, spent $437 on the car, completed bonus 218, and then for completing the job 218 itself as well. So we earned a total of $873 from doing that job. So we can either drop it down, or we can just go and do the work order again and just finish the job from here. So we got a nice amount of XP and a nice amount of money from that job itself. We are only on 350 XP, so it's going to be a while before we can actually upgrade our fastening bolts to allow for us to fasten and unfasten those bolts quite a lot faster. So let's once again sell all the parts that we can't repair right now. And made a little bit of extra cash from that. But I think that is all the time I've got for this episode. I really do hope you guys are enjoying the game. In the beginning, yes, things are going to be a little bit slow. The XP, the money is not going to be that much, and the jobs itself aren't going to be that fascinating. But later on, when you start working on more complex problems, things become interesting, and they become quite fun, to say the least. And I do hope you guys are looking forward to the series I have got planned on this game. Now, if you guys enjoyed that, by all means, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see all you beautiful people in my next video. But obviously, until then, cheers.